Tracy here with another Scraproom video. A couple months ago I made a video of a pretty significant change that I had made to the layout in my room, and I did a, well, I'm going to say quick, but it probably wasn't quick, video just kind of showing preliminary how it was set up and what my first thoughts were and why I had moved it the way that I had. And in that video I mentioned that I would live with the room and tweak it and make it really work for me and come back and do a longer video very soon. So here it is. It's been a couple months of me living with my room this way, and I feel like this is probably the best change I have ever made in my scrap room, just increasing my own efficiency within the room that I already have has been hugely helpful, very, very enjoyable. I love my room. It's very pleasant to walk into now. So I am right now standing right by the door. So there's my door, and so that's where I've been standing. And when you come in, it's just like you're met with this big open area and the rug and this little hallway, instead of before when you walked in, my big brown desk was like right in front of you and you had to kind of veer off to the side here to get into my scrap room. And then there was this really narrow little channel right here that you could use to get from this part of my scrap room to the other part of my scrap room. So there used to be a big, almost like a peninsula right here that you had to kind of like walk through a channel to get to the other side. Now it feels much, much more open and easy to navigate. This channel here is much, much wider than the channel that I had when it was over on the other side, and it's just more enjoyable. I did remove a table, so I have less cropping room. It's certainly, I still have lots and lots of room for myself and one person. I'm going to make this tour be detailed enough that if you haven't watched any of my other tours, it will make sense to you. And so this one will probably be quite a long one, and it'll be probably posted in multiple parts. I'm just going to step out here and start. I'm actually going to start in the closet. Now, other times that I've done scrap room tours, I either have my room cleaned and the closets are a mess, or the closets are clean and the room is a mess. But here I have my closet is all clean for once. So this closet with the YouTube play button is mostly kids' craft stuff. And so I keep their craft supplies in these plastic bins that are stacked on top of one another. And you can actually remove this top. So this is actually two sets of drawers, and you can pull this off, and then two sets will actually stack together. And that's what I have here, is two sets stacked together. And then I just hang on to the extra top so that if I ever decide to reconfigure them, I can put it back together again. I think that little one is stacked. I think that one came as two sets of two as well. And this one I think is three sets stacked. And so I do have my label maker that I used to label all of these drawers to help them put things back where they belong. And it's just kids' craft supplies, so I don't really have to explain it in too much detail. The only thing down here that is mine is my postage stuff. So I keep my postage for all of my mailouts for my 27-day challenge and other just little racks that I send out. I keep it all down here along with this month's 27-day challenge and some cards down there. Those are pre-made cards, not that I've made, but they're from the Studio Calico card kits. They went on sale for $5 or $7 maybe about a year ago, and I bought a whole bunch of them just to have on hand so that if I ever need to send a card to somebody and I don't have an appropriate one made up, I can just dip into that stash. So yes, I think I'll work around the room this way, and I even will include my back closet this time because I never include that room. So this is how this wall looks now. It features mostly a bank of Jetmax, and these are actually mostly recollection. I always use the word Jetmax but my cubes are a combination of, the older ones are by Jetmax, and then the newer ones are Recollections cubes that you get at Michael's. And so they are stacked 3 cubes high and 4 cubes wide. And then I have a piece of foam board that spans across 2 of them, just so that my mixed media supplies don't like fall between the cracks. And yeah, and then I just, because some of these things span 2, I had to put like one of the cube shelves that isn't being used right here, just so that that wouldn't be wobbly. And so it's a bit of a hack job, but I really like it. That is just a poster that I printed. It was a meme going around, and I just printed it with my ginormous printer, which is the Canon Pixma Pro 100. And I put it up there along with a piece of pattern paper with New York City on it that I love, that Stephanie Hart gave me. Most of my pegboard up here is there's kind of like a big chunk of it that's empty right there. And then I got some questions about my paint storage, my paintbrush storage. So this is a plastic pegboard display, like storage thing. That I got at Canadian Tire. It is for storing tools in, and so I just have it. I made it so that, because some of these paintbrushes would just fall right through the holes, and so I just made it so that it was on top of this. This is a drawer from the 4-drawer cubes, and you'll see right there, that's where the handle on the drawer would have been, but I didn't use it as a drawer, so I never did put the handle on it. So I just put my paintbrushes into that gray unit, and I put a piece of, this is kind of like rubbery shelf liner underneath, just to keep them in place, so that the bottoms of the brushes are on this. It's a little bit of a sticky material, so that they don't wobble and kind of like slide around, that they would have if they were on just the plain shelf. And I keep all of my paintbrushes in there, and a few other things like brayers and droppers and a comb for texture and that sort of thing. And then I just have my one fancy palette knife right there. It's not that fancy, but I just really love the wood palette knife, and so I keep that right there. Underneath of that is one of those drawers from the 2-drawer by 2-drawer, so it's a 4-drawer Jetmax or Recollections cube, and I just put it on its side, and I use these a lot all over my scrap room. You will see them, and this holds all of my 6x6 paper pads, and the newer ones are over here and the older ones are over here, and as I put in new ones, I take out an old one and put it in my giveaway pile. Then right here I have a pegboard shelf, and this is actually a leftover board from a Recollections cube that I didn't assemble entirely, and so it's not quite as long as it should be, but it is close, and it certainly gives this basket enough stability. And this is my basket that holds my distress ink. And I keep my distress ink like this. I believe I have a video that talks about it, and it's basically, the way I made this is I just used hot glue and ran 4 dowels, or maybe 4 dowels along the length of this basket, and it just kind of keeps my distress inks at a tilt so that I can see what I have pretty easily. I'm pretty short, so I can't see it nearly as good. I'm holding my phone way above my head in order to show you, but when I look at it, I can see it from about this perspective. And so that's enough for me to be able to just kind of like go up on my tippy toes and see what I have there. Above that are that is the top and the bottom of an Apple Watch case. So when you buy an Apple Watch, it comes in a case like that. Those cases are so sturdy, even though they're just made of chipboard. I use iPhone cases and watch cases for shelves in my storage because they're so sturdy and they're plain white and very nice. And so that holds my Prima chalk inks and my smooch inks, which I admittedly don't use all that often, but I do use them in mixed media occasionally. Those are just two-pronged pegboard hooks there. And then above that, I just have a canvas that Stephanie Hart made for me. Then I have another one of those drawers from the 4x4, like not 4x4, from the 4-drawer unit. That drawer is on its side too. That one does have its handle on it because I repurposed it after I assembled it. This holds some mixed media supplies. My carousel for ink, 2 empty water bottles. These are a bunch of daubers. This is a paint cleaning and water dispensing tool. And then that is the palette from my Dr. P.H. Martin's watercolors. Below that I have just my plain water mister, and that is all that is on the pegboard. So over here I have this is a drawer repurposed from one of the Jetmax cubes, and it holds all of my mixed media colors. So I will show you. These are washi tape storage units that I don't put the dowel in, and it stores all of my colored gelatos on the top, and then my neutral gelatos and a couple of gelato tools that just come in the packages. When you get collections of gelatos, you get like little specialty brushes and foam wedges and stuff. Then in this really beautiful dish that I got at Winners, I keep my distress crayons and my, what are these called? Ken Oliver Color Burst, which are dry watercolor pigment. So pretty, I love those. Then over here in another washi tape dispenser, I have my Dr. P.H. Martin's Hydrus watercolors, and those were given to me by Stephanie Hart for my birthday, I think. Then here I have some oil pastels, which I really don't use for scrapbooking. I use them for other projects. And some Prima water-soluble oil pastels. This is metallic watercolors. This is my Sakura Travel Koi Travel Field sketch box. This is my palette of watercolors that Irite made for me and sent to me. This is my Prima All-Stars. So it looks like it's the Prima Pastels, but it is not. It's the tin from the Prima Pastels, and it has most of the pastels and some other colors in there as well. And then the other 3 sets that I've already taken my favorites out of are right there. So I just keep what I call the All-Stars on the top, because that's the one, if I'm going to use Prima watercolors, I'm going to want one of my favorites most likely. Although when I use watercolors, I'm always going to want these ones. These are artist quality watercolors, and they're amazing. I love, love, love them. Next we have my non-colored mixed media supplies, and along with it is my beautiful high-end sequins that I got from, what are they called? Little Things from Lucy's Cards. They're so, so pretty, and I had to move them because they were over by my kids, and my kids were using them for their projects, and I don't mind sharing my supplies with them, but not my super expensive sequins. So these are all general mixed media supplies. And then I have this Rubbermaid stepped. This is for using in your pantry or in your kitchen, and I just use it for my mixed media supplies. I keep them all here. I have a little bit of salt here because the kids and I were doing some watercolor with salt. And then here we are back at the paintbrushes and 6x6 paper pads. So now I'm going to walk you through this bank of cubes and just tell you what's in each one of them. So here I have a basket that has Lawn Fawn dies, a whole variety, mostly Lawn Fawn, but all my other non-Lawn Fawn dies are in the back. And I just use For the ones that I don't have packaging for anymore, I just use magnetic sheets that are glued to chipboard. And then for the ones that I still have the packaging for, I just add some magnetic sheets to a piece of white cardstock and just slip in the original packaging. So I kind of use a combination of original packaging and magnetic strips so that I know who makes all of these dies. Just like that. And now these are my older stamps that I used to keep on these sheets. And what it is a piece of cardstock with a piece of transparency on it. Then all of my stamps are attached to it. And then there's another piece of transparency that's up. I use packing tape at the bottom so that it's all enclosed in the bottom. And then I just put the sample sheet right there. Next cube holds my typewriter on the bottom, 2 shelves, so I have to pull out the shelf there so that my typewriter can fit in. My Brother Charger 11 typewriter and my steel rule dies. The bottom drawer has, these are border stickers that I just don't use as often, so I put them over here, and just anything border-ish. So anything long and thin is right in here. Then we have tabs and doilies, which is really just doilies. There was a time when I used a lot of tabs on my pages, and so I had a bunch of die-cut tabs. And then here are my brads. I keep my brads in these little pieces of foam that used to come with that they used to come packaged in, and then whenever I get products that have that same kind of really hard foam, I just hang on to it and line these little cells with it so that I can stick my brads in. That allows me to be able to see my brads and not have to dig around to see what I have, because as you'll notice, brads tend to fall with their faces down when they're not in foam, and then you have all that you see is the legs of the brads. And that's not very helpful for choosing which one you want. Underneath my brads I have my Tim Holtz and other brand metal findings and embellishments, and some more brads right there. And that's what that foam looks like when it's just cut and doesn't have any brads in it. There are some extra brads back here that I just haven't, I have the package for, and I haven't moved them over to this yet. This next cube was a 2 shelf cube, or maybe a 2 drawer cube, and I just took the shelf and the drawers out of it, so it's just empty. And I really like to have empty cubes to just put whatever stuff inside. It's the most flexible arrangement. So I have all of my Stampin' Up! Clear Mount stamps in there. I also have my 2 Misty tools and my Stampin' Scrub, and a couple of pieces of foam, like a mouse pad and another piece of foam for stamping on. Below that is my Big Shot and the platforms. Below that are just some more die cutting things. So these are some templates for some of the dies that I have that I always forget how to make. It just gives me guidelines about where to put the glue and that sort of thing. And some little specialty dies that I love. I don't have really enough of them to figure out proper storage. And this orange box holds my embossing folders. Right there. I have a new one that I just got not too long ago from Maggie Holmes, Chasing Dreams. Then the bottom cube is a 3-drawer cube, and it has my rub-ons, and some of them I like to use actually for tattoos for some of my doll customizing and that sort of thing. So I keep even old rub-ons just because I never know if I might be able to use them. And sometimes I use them just as a design element, like just kind of, I purposely put them on messy, and the rub-ons that are no good are really good for that. I have a drawer of vellum that includes like proper packages of vellum as well as scraps of vellum. I have a 6x6 vellum pattern pad here, and just any scraps and pieces of vellum. I also have acetate in here, so any of those like Handley screen prints and those sorts of things are all in here. And then this is my texture drawer. It's where I put anything that I think has nice texture that I might want to use on a page. This is from my Take 10 texture class, as is this and this. I was just demonstrating some differences. And so some of these are, you know, demos that I had done for my class, but then I also have just things that I've found at various craft places or findings from around my house, like certain types of tissue paper and crepe paper and cheesecloth and just a whole bunch of stuff. Anything that I might use for adding texture to my scrapbook pages. So back up to the top, we'll start right here. This is a 4-shelf unit, and I really have just made it into 2 shelves. So this shelf here holds my chipboard sheets. I don't have too many of them because I have a hard time finding them, but the 12x12 chipboard sheets that come with collections are my very favorite embellishment. Whenever I'm buying a collection pack, I always try to get the chipboard. It seems like the chipboard is often not available at the store that I'm shopping at, so therefore I don't have a whole lot of these. I'm also starting to put my thickers, my chipboard thickers here, because they're the same thing. They're just, they don't have the little, like they're not in a full sheet, they're just on a piece of backing instead, so they're basically the same thing, so I'm putting those here as well. Then I have 2 drawers here that I've repurposed. This one is still acting like a drawer, although it's kind of just sitting on a shelf. And this one includes all of my stamps, that, like card making stamps that have dies with them. And I just keep them in these Avery L clear pouches with the stamps on the front and the dies on the back with a piece of magnet. And not all of these, I don't have dies for all of these, but I do have dies for most of the stamp sets that I have, because I like doing that. Then these are other stamp sets that are mostly not Lawn Fawn. They're actually mostly Scraptastic stamp sets. Right there. Then below that we have mostly cardstock. This is my backup stock of white and black cardstock. And then this is Stampin' Up! Cardstock right here, which I don't have a whole lot of, as you can tell. It's 12x12 Stampin' Up! Cardstock. And then this is Stampin' Up! Designer Series paper pads. So these are paper, but they kind of read as solids. They have patterns on them, but I like them for card making mostly. And then right here I have specialty cardstock, so various different textured and foiled and those sorts of things, and then glossy white cardstock and some Copic marker specialty paper and that sort of thing. So I'm keeping my cardstock in these folders. These folders are plastic and they're from Cropper Hopper, and I really love them. They're great for keeping bunches of stuff together, and I put them on their side so that I can still, it holds them together nicely, but I can still pull them out like this without having to take out the whole folder to get at what I want. Then under that we have, this is low quality cardstock from Michaels from my beginner scrapbooking days, when I didn't have a huge budget or I didn't really know what I was buying. And so I got a whole bunch of that, which I dip into that quite a lot. I have both the 8.5 by 11 size as well as the 12 by 12 size. This is an extra Cropper Hopper with a bunch of folders. This is something that I have. It's the I Am collection from Simple Stories. It's a whole bunch of pieces of it, and I was planning to make a mini album at one point and I never did, but I still haven't given up on the thought of that mini album. And then this is empty page like project holders and Studio Calico project bags. So back up here I keep my pattern paper in these next in this next tower of cubes. And so this right here is my current patterned paper. And although, I mean, some of these collections are actually quite old, I have a video that talks about how I have these folders set up. So I have it set up so that you can, I have these tabs that tell me what the collections are. And then if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to use some Maggie Holmes, I just pull out the tab and the whole thing comes, because this tab is attached to a piece of chipboard that has the sample, like the manufacturer's overhead sheet, as well as all of the paper is inside here. And then sometimes what I was first doing was I had done it 2 different ways, and so some of them have this chipboard and some of them don't. Some of them just have the plastic that loops around. And of course the plastic is intact at the end, which means that when I pull it out, the whole thing comes, which means that I can keep my little scraps and stuff in there as well. I don't have to figure out another way to store my scraps. And so all of my collections are like that, and I do store my paper primarily by collections. So that is the first, when paper comes into my scrap room, if I have a collection, I will make a collection folder for it and put it right here. So my most recent addition is Rhapsody from Photoplay, and so here is that. It has the manufacturer's sheet on a piece of chipboard and the tab, and then the Ziploc bag that holds it together. I have a video about how I do this, and so you can check that out. I'll try to remember to link it. I'm not really good at remembering those things, but I'll try. And yeah, so the only thing to say that's not obvious about this is that some of my collections I do mix together. So this is Maggie Holmes by Crepe Paper, and it's all of the Maggie Holmes collections are, I bought one of the collections, the very first one, and so I still have quite a lot of that, but then every once in a while I'll get another sheet, and if it's Maggie Holmes, I'll just put it in here. So I have a whole bunch of the Chasing Dreams collection because it came in a kit and I also bought some. So I have a bunch of that in there. I just mix them together. And my old Dear Lizzie I was separating out, so I have Fifth and Frolic, and I have Lucky Charm right here, but then I have Saturday over here, and I just added Lovely Day in with Saturday because they're really similar. So if they're similar enough and it's the same brand, I will just stick them together. Then I have Miscellaneous Studio Calico paper because I just own a lot of that. It's mostly old, but I do really like it. It's got that kind of vintage retro, almost like a sassafras feel to it. And then I keep wood grain and ledger paper and map paper as well, all together. And then after those categories, then I have color categories. So this is all the browns and beige and creams. This is all the blacks and whites and grays. This is all of the reds. And so this just includes random pattern paper that I probably don't have a collection for, or if I do have a collection for it, I've miscategorized it. So the way that I sort my paper by color is I start by picking which side of the paper I like the best. So I decide, for example, this paper, it was this side that I liked the best, and then I sorted it based on that, so it landed in my black pile, even though the other side has blue as the main color. So that's the way I do it. The next cube down from that holds my cardstock. I took the time to sort my cardstock by color not too long ago, and it has made a huge difference in how quickly I can find a piece of paper that I need. Obviously, sorting your color by paper will make it easier, but I had no idea just how much of a difference it would make. So I'm so glad that I did that. If you're hesitating about going through all of your mixed up papers, I highly encourage you to do so. Now, at the end of my color sorted paper, I have this hunk of paper that isn't sorted color, and this is sorted by color, and this is a bunch of basically collections. I have a Tim and Beck collection that's basically all solids. so I keep it with my cardstock. And then I have some Lawn Fawn collections that I actually bought by accident. I meant to buy the 6x6 pads and I ended up buying 12x12, so I just store it here. I'll use it eventually. There we go. Now this next slot right here is a bit of a mishmash of newish things and things that I don't have a place for. So I have 4 extra collections of Felicity Jane black and white papers that I just didn't want to bulk up my black and white section there. And I think I already have 2 packages of this in the black and white section, so I'll just keep my extras down here for now. And then I have just a variety of things that I don't want to forget about. I have a kit here that I didn't finish using and think I might come back to. Jane Davenport paper and some mixed media samples. Then the next slot has Stampin' Up! Designer paper series, which I don't have very much of. It's from my demo days. And then a folder. This is again a Cropper Hopper folder that has a bunch of what I call art paper. So it's basically either thin paper or paper that I don't love for scrapbooking, but I probably would use for mixed media. I find I have different taste for mixed media than I do for scrapbooking, so I just keep mixed media paper there. Then I have, this is basically the throwback cube. So this has like the old original Amy Tan collection. It has old October Afternoon. I have a huge bunch, now it's huge anyways, of sassafras. Anything 12x12 that's sassafras. So this includes the stickers as well as the paper. I have some old Basic Gray, and it's all sorted with the same plastic folders. Some more Basic Gray and some more Basic Gray. So I did separate Basic Gray out into its collections. I did really enjoy Basic Gray, although they were a little quirky. Like I liked it. It was more in tune with my decor style than it was with my scrapbooking style. So I kept finding myself buying Basic Gray and never really getting the use out of it because it just didn't fit with my scrapbooking style. Here I have 8.5 by 11 Cropper Hopper containers that have, this is Stampin' Up! Cardstock and scraps, I guess. I don't know why scraps are in there. And then this is Stampin' Up! Cardstock that isn't scraps, and it's mostly by collection or by packages. Like I just have certain colors that I like, so I buy more of those. This is things like magnetic sheets, shipping labels that I can use for stickers, overhead transparencies, and then this is all chipboard that comes with kits. I've got some old Studio Calico paper bags from when their kits used to come in paper bags, and just that, self-explanatory. Right here I have all of my nonstick craft mats. Yes, I went a little overboard. I have 3 of the white Heidi Swap ones, and this one is I think made by Basil. I won it from scrapbook.com. Then I finally installed my red faucet hook, and it holds my 2 aprons as well as my Crop and Create bag that holds another Crop and Create bag as well as clean towels and rags.